Hi all, welcome in next video of WebAPI tutorial. So in this video we are going to work for the further development which we have completed in last video. So guys, we on the last video we already installed Oracle databases, Oracle latency, and we also work for some schema creation. Okay, so if you have opened the Oracle SQL Developer earlier, so you guys would be able to see some tables, packages, views inside the schema you have selected. Okay, so here you can make your own connection. Otherwise, you can also work on the same schema here. It is also showing a TNS schema. Either you can create a new connection by just clicking on here, right click, new connection. Okay, so I already created a one connection here. I given the name tech dev. Okay, so afterwards what we are going to do next today, so we have some target points for today's video. So we already have we created a database connection, so next we need to create a user details table. Okay, so I already have a script created, so it would not take much time for us. Okay, so we need to create user details table, and I think package details. Okay, so user details table and package detail tables. Okay, so we are going to create these two tables. Then we will be adding a field configuration as per our requirement. We already have worked in and created one API. So what our API requirement is, like in our API and controller, you can see we require a user first name, last name, mobile, email, country. So we required some more fields. Let me show you what okay, so these fields basically we required. So as per the fields requirement, we will be creating the tables fields. Okay, and we also adding some data inside that table so that we can fetch that data and we can display that data to the API end. Okay, once the request gets come to the API. Okay, so I also created an architecture which would help you to understand how we are going to implement the different separation of the API. Okay, so basically we are considering here 3-tier architecture. Okay, in which we are keeping API configuration separately, then the business logic and data logic in a different solutions. Okay, so you can see that we have a 3 different solution in our Visual Studio section. You can see here we have a 4 solution here. Okay, so models configuration is there, which will be a part of entity framework. Okay, which will be responsible for creating request and response and holding up the data for the solution. Okay, and we have a one PL solution, business logic solution, one of DL, that's a database logic solution, and one is API solution. So right now we are only creating the APIs for the user details, and further we will also implementing some more APIs. But we don't have a too much rigid configuration and rigid logics which can make the solution complex. But when we are working on a real-time solution, so we definitely will be having some rigid configuration and huge concepts, huge logics, which makes the solution heavy. Okay, so if we separating out the solution in 3 different logic layers, so what it happens, what is our front end layer, like we can say it API, it becomes lighter because we are keeping this solution lighter, and whatever the business logic, we are putting that logic code inside the business logic layer, and whatever the database logic, like database configuration, database access, database holding, all the logic inside the database logic layer. Okay, so what the benefit we get in this case, like our solution becomes more lighter, faster, and efficient in case of as compared to the whole in single solution. Okay, so how we are going to access our API for user details, get user details. So you can see here our entry point for the API solution is this. Okay, you can see here, like we will be getting the get user details by ID. Okay, so this is the controller. Okay, so what happens, like so when any request comes to the API, so what the API does, like it identifies the controller. Okay, and go into the route configuration table and identify the action method, and as per the appropriate controller action method, it routes the call to the that particular action method. Okay, like if anyone is calling user slash get user details by ID, so user slash get user details by ID, user means this. Okay, this controller, user controller, so call automatically comes to this controller, and when slash it's getting get user by ID, so call is directly redirecting to this action method, this particular action method, and whatever the concept and logic is written over here, that will be executed and like come up with the actual response. So this is the API part, so we will need to keep this lighter. Okay, so after API we would be like API would redirect our concept, our call to the business logic layer. Okay, this layer you can see, and then business logic layer as per the requirement redirect the call to the DL layer. Okay, and the same instance is actually models. Okay, which is containing some request response things which will be holding up the data for the solution. Okay, so here you can see, like this is the end user. Okay, so like end user wants to get some details from this API. He has some UI, like he has some mobile tablet or PC, so he put the ID and click on the get user details. While he's clicking on the get user details, call is redirecting to the CRMS API, like get user details by ID. Okay, so what will happen next? Like get user, it call comes to the action method, and then action method to the BL logic layer. So, okay, like inside the BL logic layer, we created interface user details BL. Okay, and the class which is implementing the interface is user details.cs. We can also give the name user details bl.cs, and inside the user details bl.cs we are calling the database logic. Okay, so what the database logic is holding user details dl. Okay, and user details is being implemented by user details dl class. Okay, inside there we are calling the database. Here you can see we are putting all this logic into the single solution, so that solution gets heavier. Okay, so for making that solution lighter and easier to deployable and less complex, we are separating out these things. Okay, so let's discuss how we are going to create the further things. So like we are going to implement the Oracle configuration and connection through the ADO.NET. Okay, get extended method we will be mapping and actual response. Okay, so let's go to the Sql Developer. Okay, so we already opened the editor, so like you can click on the right and create a new like connect. You can get the option here, click on the connect, and the editor tab will get open. So guys, I don't want to make this video more heavy and bigger, so I already have created this uh, queries, so it would not take too much time to execute. So just copy this query like this way. You can also get this query and control V and run this. So once you run this, table will get created. Okay, and you also can right click here in table folder and create a new table. Just click on this and just create new table, and you can put the column names here. So like first column is this, if you want to add second column, third column, if you want to make the primary, so click here. So after clicking this, already this DLL is getting created. DDL means data definition language, means it's kind of code which can be done in editor. So once you manually creating this detail is automatically gets created. So our default schema is system, so table will get created inside the system schema. Okay, so we already have created those two tables, and also after creating that you can just insert insert into system dot user details, and whatever the data you have, take this, just copy and paste here. So after executing this data so after executing this like data will get inserted into the table. So this is the first way. Either we can create a script and insert the data, or we have this user detail table. Okay, so I already inserted, so you will get some data like here. Okay, but if you want to do it manually, you can just click on this plus. The sixth row will get inserted here, like I can show you. Okay, so like if you wanted to put the id, you can put here id, name if you wanted to put the name. So I have, so what can, let's put the name Sanjay. Mobile number, so it's a number, so you need to give the number here. Country India. Yes. Okay, and the id is. So I will explain about this fundamental of Oracle. I will create one video, so you would be having a better understanding about the Oracle. Okay, so at this time I'm not taking too much details. I'm just straightforward doing the things and continuing the video. Otherwise, if you including all these concepts for the Oracle, so it will make lots of time. So I'm just putting the necessary requirements and necessary concepts, so you just understand. And further, once we will be completing the C# fundamental video, so we would be understand how it is working. Okay, you can see here this query is already created and the insertion has been done. Okay, so like select star from user details. Okay, user details table we already have. Control enter to run this, or you can click on the play. So you can see here our data is already stored in the table and it's appearing as per the requirement. Okay, so I kept the user id as a primary key and as an integer number, and mobile is also a number, and the package id is also a number, and apart from these all are in variables like number plus any variable. Okay, so like our Oracle data insertion and table creation, schema creation part have been done. Okay, so I also created one package table which is indicating the details for this package ID, like what are the, you can see the like configuration table for this package. So we will be having a package detail table here. Okay, I did not put the much data here. Like if 101 is like with family pack, 102 is Hindi pack, 3 is sport pack, 4 is movie pack. So I put some detail here. I will also put this detail in future once we are fetching up this data. Okay, so meantime we have a sufficient data to like get displayed for the API. So let's go to the API and continue further configuration. Okay, so Oracle part is done. Okay, so like we have some insertion script and creation script. So we are going to implement the like data access logic through the ADO.NET. So what is ADO.NET? Actually ADO.NET is a set of classes to interact with the data sources, different data sources, Oracle, MS SQL, and the XML data API, web JSON data. So we can connect those data to the using the ADO.NET. So ADO is ADO, like calling for the ADO is ActiveX data object. Okay, so you can say .NET ADO connect to the database executum, like whatever the like data we are getting, so we we can also do some kind of querying and do some kinds of command execution for that data. Okay, so meantime we are going to using the ADO.NET for connecting with the Oracle databases. Okay, so here in second image what we are trying to did we have implemented a dependency injection for the DL dependency to the BL. Like if we have a let me go to the solution. Okay, so we already have a 4 different solution here. So like entity solution, not entity solution, CRMS API solution. Okay, so API solution will be directed to the BL. Okay, as per the logic I told you, like API call will connect to the business logic will connect to the DL. Okay, and DL will consume entity framework also, and entity framework will get consumed in all 3 places, but DL will further connect to the Oracle database. Okay, so let's understand the dependency. Like CRMS API should have a dependency for the entity and BL. Let's see. Okay, we need to check dependency, project dependencies. You can see here CRMS entity and BL, so that's fine. Okay, then BL will be connected to the DL and entity. Okay, so that's BL logic. Entity is connected but DL is not yet connected, so let's connect DL also for the BL. Okay, so this is done, BL is done, and DL. Let's say DL should have an entity connection, entity dependencies. Let's go to entity. Okay, so our this logic, this concept has been implemented. Further, we will be implementing code through but this logic. API is connected to the BL, okay, and BL is connected to the DL, and entity is being set with the all two. Okay, so let's connect with the classes also. Okay, so I show you the implementation we did already in test API. So like for DL also we created one interface UserDetails DL.cs, and for repository this interface implementation class is UserDetails.dl.cs. Before that we need to look for the BL, so let's go first for the UserDetails.cs and UserDetails.cs. So we can also create a UserDetails BL.cs, but it's okay because API is not using a UserDetails.cs, so that's fine, no problem. Let's look for this. Let's see what we have. So we have a UserDetails.cs. Okay, but we did not create it at the implementation for this. So let's create a repository. Okay, and add a class UserDetails BL.cs. That would be, I think, more interactive for the business logic. UserDetails BL. Okay, this will be implementing the UserDetails logic. Okay, so this class is do we have anything? Okay, so we have a get UserDetails by ID class in the same period. Okay, and the implementation is here. So what can we do? Like this is the BL. Okay, So this class is public class. Let's put the public here. Okay. And it's implementing our user details. Okay, it's a Z, so we will need to implement the normal using which already. Yes. So we can implement like whatever the interface we are inheriting to the class, we will be forced to implement the classes are declared inside the interface. Okay, this is the concept for the interface. Like if we are declaring 10 class here, so we will need to forcibly implement the 10 classes in this take class, which we are getting inherited from the interface. So let's implement it. Right click here, make implement the interface. Okay, so this get user details by ID have been implemented. So now there is no solution. BL is implemented. So what we need to do further? Further, we need to implement the dependency for the DL. Dependency injection. Okay. So what is required using CRMS dot DL. DL. Inside the DL we have definitely entity framework. The entity is already issue. DL is not coming. I think DL inside here DL is implemented. Let me see. Dependency. DL is already there. Okay, so no issue with this. And we can put the dependency. Okay, entity and DL both are there. But what we need to do, CRMS.dl is there. DL is there, CRMS.dl. So UserDetails we need to use dot DL is not coming from now. Let me see if we are putting this dependency directly. We'll throw some errors. Let's see if it is. No, it is not generating. Okay, so DL dependency is not coming. Let me check what. So next we need to add the dependency for the DL. Okay, so using CRMS dot okay, so CRMS DL dependency is already here. So you can see BL is here. BL is dependent to the DL, and we already created the same structure in DL also. So our user details interface DL is there, and this interface implementation will be inside this repository. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to inject the dependency of DL into the BL, and then we will be implementing the solution in DL then BL. Okay, so inside the BL class we need to put the dependency. Let's get the dependency here. Put here, so it would not take too much time. Okay. Okay, so like you can see here, we have created one key. Okay, we also have one user details object here. Okay, so we were calling the, this is the class name. Okay, so we are calling the constructor of the class, and we are injecting the UserDetails DL dependencies to the BL. Like we are implementing the object and putting all the methods of this DL into this object. This is the object of the user details interface. Okay, so further on, when this class will get executed, so what will happen? Firstly, a constructor of the class will get executed. It will inject the dependency of DL into this object, and this object will be available with all the classes which are implemented inside the DL. Okay, so DL, what our DL is going to implement? DL is going to implement the database logic, which will be communicating with, which will be like using the code to communicate with the Oracle database. Okay, so inside the BL, we are going to call to the DL logic. So for calling that logic, we need to have a dependency of the DL, so that we can call the DL classes, data, DL's objects, entities. Okay, so further on, when we will be implementing the BL logic, so we can call this, use this object of the DL, and we can call the method implemented inside this DL. Okay, so right now there is no method implemented inside the DL, so this would not provide you any structure or any calls. So let's implement one method, then we will be able to understand how it gets called. So interface is also blank, so let's take some interfaces from DL. Okay, so I also created a user details here. So get user details by the same is the same interface we are implementing here also. Okay, so this interface is created. The system dot task is required. I think threading dot task here. And response entity is also required. Okay, so both are implemented here. So now we are going to inject this interface to this class. Okay, so here we would also need to implement the interface. Okay, so this DL database class is created. So this class will call the database, Oracle database, to get the data from the Oracle. So we already have done this. So here we can go two ways. Okay, either we can like create a separate method, or we can put this logic to directly to our method. So I created a separate one test, so we can put the separate one method and we can get the code. We will understanding the code. Okay, how it is working. So instead of like you can see here, we have this class, okay, that we already implemented in our DL logic. So what it is going to do, so we have a synchronous call here, like it's not a single call. When we are, it's going to connect to the database, so there could be a multiple call in a sequence. It would not wait for the like response. The call will get executed. It would not wait for the completion of the task to take the another call. It will continuously hitting the database and getting the data. So it's asynchronously connecting to the database and providing us the response. So this is the advanced feature of ASP.NET Core, which we are going to implement here. Okay, so how does it work? Like I'm implementing everywhere whenever the class is getting created. So you can see that async is there. Okay, and async is waiting for the await. Like you can see await here, await here. So one async may have a multiple awaits. There is no limitation of it. Okay, so what is happening here? Just understanding this is smaller one. So whenever the call is coming to this method, okay, so method is automatically understanding like this is a synchronous call. Okay, so when it gets executed, it will point waiting for the await. So once await comes here, so like the first call is coming, okay, so it will come here await and hit the database. Okay, it is knowing that it's await here, so there will be some time consumption to get the response. So it would not wait for the another one. It will keep one thread to wait for the database execution, and the second thread continuously will come in this method and start executing this method again. So there should not be any blockage of the time. Okay, the continuous execution will be happening here. So that is the advantage of asynchronous. Okay, so we are keeping the asynchronous call here. So let's continue with this. I'm just putting this frequently so that I do not consume your too much time. So it's not implemented, that's why it's showing the red. Let's implement it. So here will write. I'm explaining what is written over there in here, okay? So don't worry about. So we will need to use the manage data access. Let's see this. No. So the major thing, like we are going to implement this ADO.NET using the Oracle managed data access. Okay, so that we will also need to add the dependency here. Okay, so add manage new package, browse Oracle.manage data access core. Okay, so the core we need to install in DL because DL is responsible to connect to the data access. So let's install this. Okay, so it will give a no worry about this. It's done. Okay, so this is also done. UserDetails. Okay, so let's implement here using Oracle dot manage data access dot code dot client. This one. Okay, so once we are implementing, you can see here Oracle command and connection is coming on red, coming on blue. There is no red for this. Okay, so DB data for this we need to implement one more data common. You see this is the out of error. Okay, so the one, this one is to the same discard and export. Okay, there is no async things. Okay, so whenever you using the async, then you can use the await. Without async you cannot use. Okay, that is required. So I did not explain try catch means handling things, so we will definitely understanding this thing in more deeper way, but currently for this connection we will require to have this try catch and finally block. So we implemented this. Get user details. I would suggest get user details by ID. By ID would be the more appropriate name for this class. Okay, and the customer ID, instead of putting the customer ID, just only put the ID here. Get user details by ID async. Get user details by ID async. Name is class, ID string is error. I think there should not be any issue for this. No worry about. Okay. So just make a note like you need to put this connection string in this way. Okay. So what is here? System is this is the ID and password. In the data source would be use system name means database name slash the port slash the service and colon schema. So this structure you need to follow for the connection establish string. For the connection string, let me show you if I put somewhere. You can see here. Let me put this also. Connection string. Okay, so user ID. So this is your ID, this is your password. Okay, whatever the password you are going to put here, you put here some star. Okay, and database connection, this is your database. Okay, and slash this is your port. I can show you how you can see for your system. This should be the same one, the PC name, and XC service would be the same. This is the service name. Okay, and this is the schema. So in this structure you need to create your database connection. So just make sure you are not like struggling on the different part. Okay, so pretty much straightforward, but sometimes when you don't get the actual details it gives you a lot of struggle. So don't be stuck on that point. Okay, let me show you how can you get these details. So like once you connected here, okay, in this uh, connection, so let's go on the properties. Okay, so you can see here like this is the name, this is the password, this is the host name, is the database name. Okay, and this is the port and this is the service name. So these details you need to put there proper in a proper format, then you guys would be able to like get the connection string, actual connection string. Okay, this might be on a different format also, but currently I'm using this one. I tested on this format, so that would be I think appropriate and helpful for you. Okay, so what basically we are doing here, we implemented Oracle managed data access client. Okay, so that is also, this client is also in .NET same work, but this is the Oracle managed access core. Okay, so this is the our actual class which is being implemented from the PL get user details by ID async. Okay, this name and this name should be the same. Okay, so inside this class we are calling this class, this one. Okay, so what this class is doing, this class is creating the connection string. This is the object which are going to be returned from the call after filling up the data. So this is the entity framework implementation in which we are creating object of the user response and filling up the data to the user list. User response. So whatever the fields we require, whatever the structure we require for the data, we can find the structure inside the user response. and implement on the same way. Okay, and what the next is, like we implemented try catch finally block. So try catch is implementing the ADO.NET logic which will be responsible to connect with the Oracle database. If any issue comes, so the error will be catched by the catch block, and if we have some error logging mechanism, so we can like manage that error. Like we can put that error, we can drop an email, we can like log the error using the log format. We can like log the error in Akana. If whatever the mechanism for the we are using for the error logging, we can log the error using the catch block. Okay. Finally block is responsible for closing up the connection. You can see here oracle.connection.closed. Okay, so finally block is this. So what is happening in try catch and finally? So I will explain further, but currently just a high level I'm telling you. So try block will first get executed. Okay, if it's executing successfully, there is no error inside the try block. So catch block will not get executed. Afterwards, finally block gets executed. Okay, so what is mandatory here? Like if you're opening the connection, like any connection, Oracle connection, MS SQL connection, so you need to close that connection in a proper way. Okay, otherwise next time when other thread will come to open the connection, it may block for the Oracle database to execution of the table. Okay, because what is happening in this case, like third one is consuming some operation inside the table, user detail table. Second thread is also going to consume some operation inside the user details table. So on that case, like this connection may get blocked by the multiple thread. So what is the prerequisite for that, and what is important here to making this connection closed once the execution gets completed? Okay. So the connection is getting closed in the finally block. You can see here. Okay. So even though like if type block is not executing, catch block is executing at some point of time, means like it is getting some error here after opening up the connection. So on that case also, like finally block gets executed. Like if any block gets executed, try executed or catch executed, but finally will always get executed. Okay. So this is the try catch. Afterwards, let's go inside the try block. So we are opening up the connection inside the using block. You can see here. So what using block is doing, using block by default calls the garbage collector. Okay, so what garbage collector is doing, garbage collector free of the spaces and operators and connections once their operation gets executed. Okay, so like if inside the using block we are opening connection here. Okay, and if we are creating some object here, like you can see data reader object we are creating. So once this using block gets executed, so automatically this memory for the reader gets freed by the garbage collector. So the major advantage of here using the using of the using block is like this resource availability after the execution of the this block. Okay, so like once this gets done, so reader resource like reader object will get destroyed, and the memory which is being used by the reader gets free and gets available for the further execution. Okay, the same way it's up like your user is also being used, so that will also get freed. So the importance, like whatever objects and variables are getting created inside the using blocks after implementation and execution of the block, the resources and the properties and fields we created, that will get available and get freed by the garbage collector. Okay. So like Oracle connection is getting open here. You can see CMD connection is like taking up the connection string. Command text is taking up the inline command. Okay, like select a star from user details. We already executed here. Select star from user details. Okay, So if we wanted to get the ID, user details, that is user details, where, okay, where user ID is equals to 1. Okay, let's see. Okay, so only one record is coming here. So this same logic we need to put there. So whatever the logic we are putting there gets executed. So currently it's coming up with all the records, but we need only one record. So right now it's a customer ID is there. So what can we do? Equals to, this is the, sorry, okay, and the customer ID. Okay, so what the query will get created, let's start from user ID, where user ID is equals to plus this customer ID. Okay. So further, if we wanted to, like we are going to implement, this is the inline query, which is not actually advisable, because in case like if we wanted to make some changes inside the query, database query, like currently we are taking up all the records. In future, if any requirements comes and they are saying like no, we need not to pick up all the records, we have to pick just only one or two columns. Okay, so in that case what we will be having a trouble, like we will need to make the changes inside this inline command text, and the solution, we need to deploy the solution again. Okay, which is actually difficult task, and real time it is not advisable, because every time when you are going to getting the changes for the solution, real time solution and database deployment, so you will need to take approval from the management, technical team, reviewing team, and then only you can go for the further deployment. Okay, so instead of putting this inline database query, we should be picking up this query inside the stored procedure. And this way, like I put the package name, like pay you each customer exist, or pay you get user details, or CRMS dot get user details. Okay, so we can create the separate one stored procedure, and we can put the stored procedure name here. Okay, so what will happen, like here should be some table for, like this page stored procedure will get displayed. Currently I think there is no stored procedure. Okay, so no stored procedures are there currently, but no problem. So we will create a stored procedure and we will call the stored procedure here. So what will be the advantages of doing, like if any changes comes on the database string, so we don't need to deploy the solution, we can go to the database and open the stored procedure and make changes here. And controllers, we can click the controllers and save, and the means changes will get impacted to the solution. Okay, so this is advisable, and putting a hard coded string for running up the solution is not advisable. Okay, so we are creating a data reader object here for the, okay, connection is open from here already. Okay, so make sure your miss connection is open here, so afterwards connection is getting closed. So the data reader object is doing means whatever the command is executing, so whatever the response is coming, so data reader is responsible for reading up the response. Okay. So the query is already created and the command is getting executed here, like cmd, whatever the is already be given the configuration, like this is the connection string, this is the query. So the ADO.NET connection will go here with the execute ready async call and execute the connection, execute the query, and will come up with the reader response. So we can read the response here, like first name, last name, and what the second thing is coming on the sequence we can put here. User ID, first name, last name, mobile. Okay. So let's see. User list dot mobile equals to await reader dot each. Actually the same. The second index. Okay. Okay, so it will come up with the so what is happening here, like reader response is coming, it is checking up for this particular key. Okay, in this index, if the key is not is null, if the key is null, then only it is fetching for this second index. It is giving error. Why it is giving? Cannot string to integer. Okay, so while is the integer, so it's not getting automatically like converting to the integer. So what can we do? Convert dot to int bracket. Okay. Cannot convert null to integer because no null. Okay, so it will be 0 here. In the same way, we need to implement what is the next mobile, then country, then email. Country, then email, then package ID. So the package ID is also an integer, so the package ID configuration could be same as mobile with package ID. Okay. And after mobile, what is there? Country. What's the country? And where is email? Okay, so 0, 1, 2, then index h3, index h4, index h5, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is. So what is happening here, like the response is coming, like cmd dot execute async is doing execution of this string, or we can say query string, into the database, and whatever the response is coming is filling into this reader. Okay, so await is here, so once the response filled inside this reader, so it start executing here. So first index gets executed and fill up in first name, last name, mobile, country. Sequentially the response is coming and filling up this user list. It should not be the user list, it should be user detail kind of, because it's not list. User detail might be like user detail is already there because we are using the same not there. Control C. detail is also so the user detail is coming here in result, or we can do this way. So result is pulling up, or we can directly put the return here in result and we will get the same response. Okay, let's build up and execute it once. Let's see. I think DL, we will also need to implement the BL. I think DL is implemented. Okay, so inside the BL what we did, so DL is ready to connect with the database. Okay, so now what we need to do, we need to update the dependency method inside the BL. So we already have a dependency object here. Control V dot get user details by ID async, and we need to put the ID as 1. Okay, so the dependency method is already implemented here, and it will give us the error, so don't worry, we can directly return this method instead of creating object. It's not the fix formatting. Yeah. See. Okay. Yeah. So it's also like we cannot use this same like the .NET Frame kind of method implementation. We will need to use the task, the same way we implemented on the DL. Okay, so you can see here in DL we already put the async and then task and then this implementation. The same we need to put here in BL also. Okay, so return wait here. Sorry. So what is this now? System work. Okay, and the same we need to implement in interface. So this interface DL is already implemented BL interface. So instead of here it should be this way. Async should not be there because we are not implementing, and system thread implementation is also required. It is implemented. Okay. So we are asynchronously calling in BL also, and definitely if we are using in BL, so it will also required inside the DL. Let's the DL debugger and go on the API. It will also definitely ask for the asynchronous call, so we will also implement in there. Don't worry. So instead of putting here, put here. Okay. And we also implemented, no, there is no dependency implemented here. So let's first implement the dependency. So inside the API, we need to inject the dependency of BL. Okay, business logic. So inside the API will be calling the method from the BL, and BL is calling the method of the DL. So let's inject the dependency of BL inside the same way, like it's a creating object of the BL and creating a key of the BL interface, and inside the constructor we are putting the variable of the interface, and inside the variable we are injecting the dependency of the interface. So not too many things. Just straightforward implementation. Just you will do the one and you will be understanding what the way is happening here. Okay. So here we are getting the user details. So what we have user details interface of the PL. Okay, so it's fine. So this is the reporting. So we are removing this. Class name is user controller. So that's fine. So now I think we are ready to implement our method. Async task. So this is the async task user response. Okay, so it will be looking for the await. Shift await. Okay, and what is the object of our BL is user details. Okay, so put here user details dot get user details by ID. What is the ID? ID is the ID we are passing. Okay, so let's deliver also here. So you can see here now we are calling first the once we are hitting the this API, this action method. So it will firstly come here. It will call the BL. This is the BL class. Okay, BL class object. You can see a user details. So inside the BL, you can see the repository name is user user details BL user details dot ts and the class name is user details dot BL. Okay, so it will call the user details means user details interface, and inside the user details there is implementation for get user details by ID. So go to implementation. This implementation is done in user details BL, like in this one. Okay, and inside this we are calling, you can see here user detail DL means DL interface. DL interface is there, user details dot DL. So inside the user details we are calling this method, which is this user details, and where it is getting implemented you can see here. Go to implementation user details dot user details DL dot CS. Okay, for this is the data logic in which we are connecting to the Oracle database. Okay, so let's build it and see. We did lots of configuration today in the solution. Okay, so it's building up successfully. Then let's run the solution and see the response if it is coming or giving us some errors. Means we will be running them again this time. Okay, so this is loading this way. Let's put ID 1. We have 1, so putting 1. So instead of 1, we take 2. Execute. Yes, I was expecting. Okay, so the BL logic, what is it's trying to giving us an error, invalid operation exception. Okay, unable to resolve service for this. So what is happening here? Like whenever you are creating any .NET Core object, so whatever the dependencies we are injecting inside the our project, so the dependencies gets loaded when the project gets build up for the execution. Okay, meaning when the first time project is building, all the dependencies and services gets verified and loaded for the solution. Okay, so what is happening here? CRMS API dot controller is trying means our API controller is trying to inject the dependency of BL CRMS dot BL. Okay, but what is happening? The BL is not loading up here properly. Okay, because whatever the dependency we are injecting means whatever the interface we created and what are the respective class for that. So for the those dependency and the services we need to declare inside the start of .cs so that it can be loaded on the pre-execution basis. Okay, means whenever the project is loading or means build it up successfully, all the dependencies have been loaded properly. So in this case, what is happening? Like we injected the dependency for the solution, but we did not like notified these dependencies to the our startup.cs like inside the pipeline services configuration. Okay, so inside the service configuration, we need to declare these dependencies. Like we have implemented this dependency so that it can be loaded before the execution of the project. Okay, so where is the startup.cs for our project is here. So you can see here configure services. So what are the dependencies and configuration for the new services like third-party services and the uh, outside project implementation. So firstly we need to put the dependencies here. So we can put a service.add tangent and the interface name and whatever the dependent class for that is where that independent interface is getting implemented. We can put that instruction and after putting the service get started loading here in this pipeline, and once the service gets loaded in this pipeline, like uh, while executing of the action method and PL and DL, those services would be available for the project for the further implementation. Okay, let me show you how to put the dependencies like this one. So we have a different type here, transient, and two, three more types are there. So I will explain you later on. Means we will be discussing about the types. Okay, so now service dependencies are loaded here. So it requires a project dependencies. Yeah, I'm DL for this one. CRMS.dl and for this one DL. Okay, and for this one no. So this is the BL, so user details BL class name is there. So this is the BL. Let's see. User details DL, user details BL. The name is not coming properly. User details BL. Okay, details. User details BL. So now we have notified this service dependency to our configuration service configuration. Like all the pipelines, dependent pipelines gets loaded from here, like Swagger and we have controller configuration and different service dependencies. Okay, so now let's again build up the project. Let's see. Yes, debugger is coming here. This is the controller class. Okay, so firstly controller class bit. Let's F10 step up. Then going to DL. You can see this is the DL class. Okay. Then going to the DL. You can see this is the DL class. Okay. Let's go to the next class. Going to the next class here. Okay, so connection here should not code should not get failed. Okay, we are opening connection should get opened properly. Okay, so connection is open means our string configuration is proper. Okay, and this is here execution. After opening the connection, the query execution will get happen here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so executed properly. So what is the first name here? Okay, so ID is 1. Okay, so first, okay, so it's ID, so we should give the ID here, but unfortunately we given the name. Last name is null, mobile is 0, country is null. Let's see what is inside the data. Visual field are 7, field count is 7. Okay, yes, data is coming. Okay, function F10. Extension conversion valid operation of closed object. Okay, so we are means debugging, so connection have been closed in this time, so that's why this error came. Okay, because we debugged, so it take up some time. So the first thing is here user ID. So first we need to give you the user ID. We will verify that thing also. Zero, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you can see 7 fields are there for the 6 index. Okay, so we are removing the debugger because it's taking a time and stopping our execution. Okay, so I think we have given us some long query. The user ID is equals to T. That's fine. Let's do this time. Okay, let's do it. query is one is coming like it's a command from somewhere hard coded, yeah, like this way. So don't worry, we will further make the changes for that. I need to check this query how it is getting prepared. Select star from user details where UserDetails 1. So that's fine. Function after. So everything mobile is coming. Yes, everything is coming at this time. So continue. Let's see. The result is coming here. See. So we have successfully, I think, implemented the API using the Oracle database. Okay, like Oracle database is communicating and connecting with the our CRMS application. So this was the little bit big video because we did a lot of things in this video. So but here a lot of things you need to like for the learning purpose and for understanding. Like we have created a so good solution architecture here, which is really would be helpful for you to understand like how we are like thinking about the solution we are good and we are going to implement any kind of new implementation. Okay, so for each new implementation, we may have some different logics, and the logics we need to separate it out into the three different architect tiers. Okay, so like in the first tier we put the some API logic, then PL logic, then DL logic, and then we connect to the Oracle database. So if we separated out the solution, so before the implementing, you also think about it like if we are implementing something, so what is the BL inside that logic, what is the DL inside that logic, and what is the API configuration for that. Okay, so I think that was the good interaction today. So thank you so much for watching the video, and please be make sure to understand all the logics we implemented today. Do it by yourself and try to understand it properly. And I would suggest you, if you guys able to implement one more API by yourself, so that would really be helpful for you. Otherwise on the next video we will definitely try to understand the further different methods like it was the kit, so we will be understanding update and delete methods. Okay, so I would suggest if you guys can able to like you just make changes here inside this query, so just making the smaller changes you guys would be able to implement the delete method. Okay, so just trying to make implementation by yourself. Otherwise on the next video we would be able to like I would be explaining about the implementation. So thank you, thank you so much for the watching. Have a great day. I think you got a good understanding today. Have a great day. Bye.